Am I the asshole for telling my kid's mum that her husband can't have my kids while she's deployed? Tagline says it all, but here's some context. I, 36 male, have 2 kids with my ex, 9 and 11. We've been divorced for 3+ years, and she remarried 2+ years ago. We have a legit 50-50 custody and split everything down the middle pretty well. We've built a good routine for co-parenting, and things have been smooth for the last few years without any hostility. If ever a time in the past where she had to leave for work, she would ask me to watch them full-time in her absence, which I always do, happily. A few weeks ago, she found out she's deploying for 6 months overseas and asked if while she was gone, her husband could keep the same routine 50-50. I said no, that I had assumed I would have full responsibility of them. This upset them, and it's been a huge discussion ever since. She says I'm not thinking of the kids, their stability, their happiness. I argue that I disagree, and that what parent wouldn't want the opportunity to have them full again, even if for a temporary time? I tried to explain that just because they are with me, that I won't cut out their other lives completely. They don't want to hear it. The husband tries to make demands, every solution I've come up with doesn't work for him, and I clearly am the bad guy to them. I want to add that our custody agreement even states that I get them if she deploys, and we live in California. So even though I don't think I'm in the wrong here, am I the asshole? Edit. I want to clarify the biggest question that seems to be asked, and the reason that some feel I'm the asshole. I have not told my kids about their mother deploying. I do not feel this is my position to. She will tell them when she is ready, and I am respecting that. Of course, I want to talk to my children about this and see what they think, and I'm trying my best to think of their stability, needs, and best interests. Edit 2. Both my children are boys, because it's also been asked 1,000 times. In the comments, Independent Prior says, Family Law Legal Assistant here. Not a lawyer, not your lawyer, the following is merely my personal opinion. Legally, not the asshole based on what you have said the decree states. I'm curious where this is originating from. Does mum want it? Does stepdad want it? Or do the kids want it, and mum is playing bad guy to protect them from feeling like they are hurting your feelings? If stepdad wants it, it could be him making a power play in their marriage, but legally, he has no standing and therefore needs to shut up and sit down. If mum wants it, it makes the most sense for her to petition the courts to modify the custody order, just to protect everyone by having it enforceable in writing, except that some provisions would need to be made for him to have legal powers in case something happens while they're in his care. If the kids want it, I think you need to figure that out, and I strongly encourage you to make it clear to them that they are not hurting you by asking. Whatever the case, please make sure that any given adult's right to the children are balanced with the needs of the children. From what I've seen in my experience, the two aren't always synonymous, and the latter is easily forgotten. Not an accusation against anyone in your story, I'm just saying. OP replies, 100% believe the stepdad wants it. He has gotten in my face over the matter and stated that his role will not be reduced in the mother's absence. It doesn't matter how many times I say you can still see them, anything less than what he feels entitled to is unacceptable for him. I want to also mention he has a son of his own that he sees 1 month out of the year for the summer. I had mentioned my kids could spend time with him when he was around, but he told me that he wasn't sure if that worked out for him because of his work schedule. He doesn't know if he can have his kid for a full summer, yet somehow can manage to support mine. Sort of a red flag there for me from a stability standpoint. Substantial Lion asks, does he want this because it makes your ex-wife pay child support for the 6 months? Ding ding ding. Plus he wants to play dad because he can't see his own kid. Correction, he wants to play dad with other people's kids and is ambivalent to his own. Apparently, he thinks he's too busy to have his own kid for a month. Lamau? This isn't it. My kids are 14, 13, and 9. For the last 8 years, my ex-husband has lived across the country from me, so I have had sole custody of them. He was able to see them every 2 years, not because he doesn't care, but because it's more expensive to fly across Canada than it is to fly from Canada to Mexico. He drove down in July to get them so they could live with him and get to know him, and now I'm scrambling to try and come up with the money to either visit them or bring them up here. I definitely won't be able to afford to take off work the entire time they're here if I can't even afford to have them this year. Maybe his kids live far away and the budget is tight. Just because he has his kid 1 month a year doesn't mean he doesn't want to be a parent. My parents lived across the country from each other from the time that I was 12. I am very used to only seeing one parent once a year. I never ever felt like the other one didn't love me or I was shirking their duties, and it was always my choice where I wanted to live. I definitely think the stepdad is overstepping, but maybe the kid wants to be there and they know it, and that's why they're fighting. I don't think keeping consistency is a bad thing as long as everyone is comfortable. The fact stepdad is so involved in the debate between mum and dad is not great. OP, ask your kids what they want. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you do just have to ask the kids what they want to do. Because we can all speculate on the stepdad's circumstances. We can all speculate on why they're not telling the kids that she's getting deployed, because that seems like a, pertinent piece of information here. I feel like that's important that the kids know that. But I'm sure OP has their reasons, and I'm sure everyone else in the family has their reasons for keeping that information from the kids. I'm going to go with not the asshole here for OP because legally it is the case that OP gets to have the kids because that's what the custody agreement says. And in the past, she has taken the kids on full time when he goes. You would think it's only fair that he takes the kids on full time when she goes. But apparently that's not the case. And at this point in time, I think you do just defer to the kids. But regardless of all of that, it's either no assholes here or not the asshole. I feel like there's just something about the stepdad that rubs me the wrong way from what OP is describing. And now, onto the update. So it's been 16 days since the original post. Before I start, not once did I say that I believed stepdad to be malicious in any way. We don't get along, sure, but that doesn't mean that he's a bad person. And next, I understand all of the people who said that I was the asshole was because I didn't talk to my children about their wants. I understand their input matters in this very big decision. Now, update. I spoke to a lawyer, and as suspected, I was completely within my rights. Non-biological parent has no say in the matter, and with mum leaving, I am the sole guardian. No need to push anything on my end unless they try to, and even then it's an uphill battle for them to prove that I'm unfit. As you can guess, they went to a lawyer also. I never sat down with mum to discuss how it went, but what I do know is that it didn't go in their favor. How do I know, you may ask? Well, I decided that it was time to have a private chat with stepdad. I was able to have a 5-minute conversation with him during my kid's sporting event, and we both conveniently arrived early too. He basically conceded at that point and told me they would just eat the 6 months. I told him that I'd talk to my ex, but he asked if I could give her some time. I get it, she just got the bad news, I obliged and left it alone. I did tell him that I wouldn't stonewall him and that I respected his position in my kid's life, and that I only flexed back after I felt like they were trying to intimidate me. We both agreed the way we met didn't start us off on the right foot, and that we should take a step back and view the other's perspective. I told him, and her eventually, that I was still willing to give time, and my intent was never to shut them out. I would like to address that I myself am a child of divorce. My stepdad raised me, and unless you knew me as a child, you would have no idea. He deserves to never be reminded that we are not biologically related. He is, and always will be, the man that I try to replicate and look up to. It was never downplaying the role of step-parent. I know my children don't have that relationship with their stepdad, and it's so fresh I don't expect it. He is their friend, mentor, and one day I will have to accept that he is also their dad. I saw a lot of other step-parents' responses, and if I made you feel a way, I apologize. I respect you. Or what do the kids want? Unfortunately, Mum still hasn't told them about the deployment. Why? I don't know. I was able to vaguely ask the right questions to get a feel for what they want. The expectation is that they stay with me but still get to see stepdad. I respect it, never against it. X and I still haven't discussed what exactly the time split will look like, but I did let her know that stepdad was my go-to if I needed any help. He was still welcome when events arise, and I would keep him involved. After stepdad and I spoke, his entire demeanor changed. Regardless of reason, it's much appreciated. Long story short, still sort of in limbo, but the future is bright. In the comments, Capoodle says, "That's so great to hear, and I'm glad that it seems to be ending on a good note thus far. Fingers crossed that mum eases up a bit too, because the children's happiness should come first. And good on you and stepdad for both being the bigger person. The kids deserve all the love in the world. He shouldn't have needed to go see a lawyer in the first place. Their tantrum cost him time and money." Mum's the main asshole here. Not because of anything she's doing to dad, but it seems like she's dragging her feet and just gonna spring, "Hey, I'm getting deployed tomorrow. Pack your stuff. You're going to your dad's for the next 6+ months. Bye," on those kids. She really needs to tell them sooner. But the guys? Nah, they did it right, and I'm glad they talked it out. It's been over a month and she still hasn't told the kids? What the hell? Is she waiting until the day that she leaves? I think I would have told them against her wishes so they have time to process. Maybe the kids would like extra time with their mum before she leaves. Former military here, it's possible the deployment is not written in stone. A lot of things can change, and she likely feels that telling the kids too early will start a roller coaster of emotions. Unfortunately, it can also lead to the kids acting out. They sometimes decide that if they throw enough of a tantrum, the military will surely let mummy stay home. There's a very fine line between giving them time to prepare versus creating extra problems for everyone. Yeah, I remember when my significant other was going to get deployed one time for 6 months, and he waited a full month to tell me because it was shaky. It still sucked. Turns out he only got sent out for 3 months as various delays hit. Various underway delays and schedule changes have us joking, "A 2-week underway? I can't believe you're leaving for 10 days. Yeah, a week's a lot. I'll see you in 3 days then? Yep, see you tomorrow." There's never a good time to tell anyone what's up, because so many things can change. Other adults can usually handle it, but kids struggle with the organized chaos. One time my husband was doing a tail swap, where they fly one military plane to a deployed location and fly another one back for scheduled maintenance or a problem that requires specialized equipment to fix. He gets out there and calls me to pack a full deployment bag for him. He decided to stay because a coworker's wife was pregnant and wasn't doing well. His weekend trip turned into 4 to 5 months. I really like these longer comments here, and I like to get into them, and I respect people that skip ahead if they want to do that. But being someone that is very far removed from anything military, I do like to get that deeper insight as to why wasn't the mum telling the kids about the deployment? Because to me, it makes sense. It's like, well, you're going to be deployed. You might as well tell them. What's the worst that could happen? And there you go. That's the worst that can happen. They throw a tantrum for a month because they're convinced that they can get you to stay. That tantrum could be for nothing because the deployment could just be cancelled out of nowhere, or it could be severely shortened. And then in doing so, does that validate the children that every time you tell them about a deployment, it's like, okay, the answer is to have a tantrum and to make everyone's lives a living hell because that'll stop her from going and that will get her back because it worked before. Of course, every kid is different. It's not guaranteed that the 2 boys in this story are going to throw tanties, but I can understand why she didn't tell them. I can understand some reasons as to why. I don't even know if I can say if she's in the wrong here because there's more to this that I don't know. Is there a way that she could have communicated this to the kids in a way that they won't throw tantrums, they will understand, and they will be happy to go with OP for 6 months? I don't know the answers to any of this. I would love to have a bit more perspective. I don't even know if I have the right to be calling OP an asshole in this situation because of all of that. And am I right to call her an asshole when I don't have all the facts? I don't know. You let me know in the comments if you have any extra perspective on this one. Is there a simple answer to this? Our next post is by user Rachel Burley, and it's titled, "My dentist broke my night guard. I said they need to replace it for me free of charge. Am I the asshole here?" So I've been waking up with jaw soreness and stiffness in the mornings for about a year. Since January, I believe this has gotten worse. I wear my custom night guard religiously every single night. I got this in 2019 for grinding and clenching. I take excellent care of it, cleaning and letting it air dry during the day. On Monday, I visited the dentist to have a conversation about possible solutions. Botox, new night guard, anything. I just wanted to talk options. She said do a bunch of jaw exercises. We'll also adjust your night guard and come back in a few weeks to see how it's going, and I said okay. Well, the dental assistant adjusted my night guard and grinded it down to almost nothing. I said, wow, it's really thin now. And she said, if there's any problems, we can just order a new one. I didn't think it was that bad, and maybe I would wear it down after a few weeks or months. The next morning, there's 2 holes in it. It's unusable. I can see how thin she made my night guard. I called the dentist the next morning on Tuesday, and they said they'll cover 50% of the cost for a new night guard. I said that's unacceptable. It's because of you that my night guard is unusable now. The secretary I spoke to was very defensive about the whole thing, and it really put me off. She said she'll talk to the dentist and get back to me. It is now Thursday evening, and they haven't answered me yet, and I called them around noon today. Am I the asshole here? How I was raised, if I'm responsible for breaking something that does not belong to me, I replace it. It doesn't matter if I was not the one who broke it. If I borrowed someone's tool and wore it down so much that it broke during the next use, I am responsible. I understand the night guard needed adjustment, but the problem that I have is, should the dental assistant really have ground it down so much? I'm completely open to buying a new night guard, but I never said that I wanted to get rid of my old one. In the comments, Tarzan Kitty says, I would suggest planting your bottom in their waiting room until someone there speaks to you and deals with this. Feel free to chat with other patients while you're waiting. Lifespan of a typical night guard is around 5 years, according to my dentist, so while they are at fault for causing it to break early, they're probably taking the lifespan into consideration. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to get more covered, but the odds are you won't be very successful. OP says, this is probably the most realistic viewpoint. It's unfortunate, but most likely to be true, I believe. Not the asshole. They broke it, they replace it, period. Don't let them off the hook. OP says, how do I not let them off the hook? What leverage do I have? My Eyes Spin replies, small claims court. Gonna have to decide if 50% is enough that you are willing to avoid the hassle and time. OP says, lol, an attorney would be so much more than 50%. They quoted me $850 divided by 2, and that's $425. Tarzan Kitty says, no lawyers in small claims, and you can file your case for like $25. OP says, the problem is that there's a big shortage of dentists where I am. Most are not taking on new patients. I need to work with this dentist, and my fear is that if I filed a claim against them, I'd essentially be blacklisted. Yeah, that's an insanely tough one, because I feel like the dentists have all the leverage in this situation, and there isn't exactly much that you can do about that. To me, it really looks like you're just going to be strong-armed into paying that $425, whether you like it or not. Because if you make more of a fuss about it, yeah, they can just blacklist you because they have all this demand. They can just take on new patients that are less problematic than you. And yeah, you're blacklisted. Do other dentists want to deal with someone that's going to take them to small claims courts? That is a very genuine possibility that you are faced with in this situation. And it's one of those ones where you have to ask yourself, is it worth the $425 fee that you would be saving? I don't know. I don't think you're the asshole here because I'm on your side with it, but this isn't so much about risk reward. This is more about like risk consequences. Much like 1 in 1,000 people that get LASIK eye surgery get debilitating pain and, you know, it doesn't work for them. It actually makes their eyes worse. Are you happy to take that chance for those consequences? For me personally, that 1 in 1,000 chance is still too high. I wouldn't risk it, But if you're happy to do that, you go right ahead. And now, on to the update. So the dentist called me yesterday and said they'd replace my night guard for me free of charge. Thank you to everyone who commented. For me, it was never about the cost of replacing it, it's the principle of it all. I'm so glad that I stuck up for myself. In the comments, Zealous Ideal Music says, "Good for you. It's never just about the money when someone breaks your property and tries to make you pay for it. I'm glad you stood your ground. It's about respect and accountability." Avid Learnerbot says, "The dentist should have just offered to replace that night guard right off without making you pay for their mistake. Sounds pretty basic. Not the asshole." For anybody with TMJ issues, do yourself a favor and call around until you find a rare PT that does intraoral therapy. Hurts like shit when they do it, but has provided the only real improvement that I've ever gotten. I'm glad this situation had such a simple fix, because again, like I said before, I don't have all the answers. I'm glad this was a simple situation where the dentist did come back to OP after OP reached out to them and said, you know what, we recognize that we messed up, we will do the replacement free of charge. That's our bad. And I'm very glad that that happened and that that worked for OP in this case. I will say though, I assume that this is not always the case with every dentist, and your results may vary, so yeah, that's all I have to say on that one. Thank you for the story, OP. Thank you for the update. I'm very happy for you that that went well. And I hope maybe you take some of this extra advice to go find a PT that does intraoral therapy for TMJ. I know myself, I benefited from that when I had really bad TMJ issues myself. But yeah, thanks for the update. Hope everything continues going well, OP. Cheers. Am I the asshole for telling my coworker to freshen up for an important event? I, 32 male, work at a company with the occasional event. I take them as a chance to network with people from other companies and so on. My coworker, 33 male, who we'll call Ben, is pretty scruffy, showing up to work in the same outfit that he wore the previous day and even sleeping at his desk sometimes. I've never interacted with him one-on-one per se, but we've been on the same projects and I'm friendly with him. Here is where the issue is. Recently there was a company event, and for once, Ben didn't really participate or speak about it beforehand, so most of us assumed he wasn't going. I didn't expect him to, of course, but he did in the most unprofessional outfit. He was wearing wrinkled clothes and colors that didn't match, like he rolled out of bed. He walked up to my circle and we locked eyes, and I joked that he should have freshened up a bit to an event like this, and there were some chuckles, but everyone was mostly silent. He soon walked away, and my other coworker pulled me aside and told me that I was way out of line, and her and my colleagues think that I shouldn't have spoken about his attire, especially since I didn't know him very well. I thought I was just making a joke to lighten the mood. I haven't seen him since, and he's been actively avoiding me. Mostly everyone in my circle is expecting me to apologize to Ben. Am I the asshole for making a joke? In the comments, Constant Aggressive says, "Someone wearing the same clothes, looking unkempt, and falling asleep at their desk sounds like someone who is going through something. Awesome that you chose to embarrass him. You're the asshole." Captain Crunchamunch says, "He didn't try to make a joke, he tried to make his co-worker a joke. He stated an opinionated statement to try to ridicule and humiliate a co-worker." OP, you may have gotten a few chuckles, but they were probably nervous laughter from witnessing a huge, disrespectful action which obviously offended one party. Just remember, karma is real and you aren't perfect. I hope someday somebody points out that you have a giant, leaking pimple on your forehead and a booger dangling out of your nose by a hair in the middle of a meeting. Professionalism and tact are both useful skills. The only darkening of the mood happened at OP's joke, making everyone feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I think if everyone else is telling you to apologize in this instance, OP, you gotta read the room, I guess. I get why you come to Reddit and ask that question, but surely having all your other coworkers there, to slap you back into reality a little bit, should have been the only wake-up call that you needed to be like, hey, you know what? My joke wasn't so good. I'm not as funny as I think I am. Okay, Sorry guys, that was my bad. I'm gonna go apologize to him and set this right. But no, you're like, I can't be wrong. It's the kids that are wrong. I was perfectly fine in upsetting Ben like I did. You're the asshole, OP. And now, onto the update. Thank you to everyone who made me realize I was in the wrong. I have been in contact with Ben lately, and it's been good between us. Firstly, I apologized the minute I saw him. I didn't care who was watching, I just did it. He was sort of awkward, now that I think about it, and it took him a few days to slightly warm up to me. The coworker who told me off for my joke informed me that Ben found out that he has chronic pneumonia. It was so severe that he was hospitalized for it. His insurance company didn't cover most of the cost, so he was left with a crippling amount to pay. I should have noticed that his health was deteriorating as soon as he went from a cane to a crutch, but I was too caught up with myself to even see it. The people who didn't laugh at my joke knew about his situation, and they're all trying to help him in their own ways. The nature of my joke was incredibly out of place. I can't even begin to explain myself for something like that, and even though Ben assured me that it's okay, I'll be trying to make his life easier, or at least his work life. We recently started coming to work together since we found out that we live pretty close to one another. I'm starting to realize what a great person he really is. In the comments, quote, I should have noticed his health was deteriorating as soon as he went from a cane to a crutch. That was pertinent information that should have been shared initially, but this guy was an asshole, and he knew it. The only thing I'll give him credit for is that he owned up to it and acknowledged his fault. Make no mistake, I value that pretty damn highly. That being said, he basically watched his coworker go full Tiny Tim and didn't think to ask a single question, not even an ounce of empathy. His first instinct was to silently judge him until he decided to openly mock him at a company event in front of his peers, no less. I wonder if Ben, whilst less put together than himself, outperforms the OP at work, because simply envy and/or jealousy would explain a lot. On the bright side, if this man was going to be a screw-up, far better to do it in front of people who collectively shame him. Then, at the very least, the office knows who the local asshole is. Prof 1495 says, what I thought this was going to be, my coworker shows up to events with body odor and is dirty, and I told him to be more professional when we interact with people outside of our own company. What it actually was, my coworker's health is slowly deteriorating, and I thought not noticing his obvious health problems because my head is up my own ass and humiliating him was the best option. Yeah, this is what I initially assumed it was before I finished reading. A lot of people fear confrontation, so it can be hard to tell a colleague that they haven't dressed appropriately for an important work event without trying to soften the blow, i.e., trying to frame it as a joke. I just don't get how you could see him walking with a crutch and not think that there's some crucial detail you're missing. Maybe he had an axe to grind with people who he figured didn't dress properly for work, but ended up picking the wrong person to insult. I don't know. Seems like OP intentionally left that detail out of the first post to try and get a bit more sympathy for themselves. I don't know why they would do that, but I mean, we can all guess why they would do that because, hey, maybe it's a bit of a health issue that I'm making fun of if I say that he's gone from a cane to a crutch. Yeah, let's leave that one out. Maybe it's easier for me to make him look like the bad guy rather than me. OP, that was a very disingenuous thing for you to do, but at least thank you for putting it in the update post and showing that you are capable of being a decent human being. A little bit more faith in humanity has been restored in me today, though you made it very hard to feel this way that I do now in that first post. Please do better in the future, OP, and please continue to work on yourself. Thank you for the story. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.